I had a really interesting conversation with one of the guys that I coach the other day because he was telling me that he was on this date and he just could not figure out how to escalate the interaction with the girl that he was with. He could not figure out how to build sexual chemistry, sexual tension, and ultimately the date basically fell flat. He didn't kiss her at the end, nothing like that. It was very platonic. He got trapped into, what a lot of guys get stuck into is that interview mode, very, friend zoney vibe to the interaction. And so he was asking me like, what can I do, or how could I have done that differently? Because he said I just couldn't find an opportunity to do it. And I'm like, because he said, oh, this is another part of it too, is he said he only had an hour. So there was a couple little things there. I'm like, okay, wait a second here. First and foremost, I said to him, like, you don't need an hour to escalate a interaction with a girl sexually or flirt. Why do you need an hour to do that? I said, you can do that in the first 5 minutes. Like, when you meet a girl, it should already be like, you should be leading that interaction into that type of a thing. Otherwise, it becomes a job interview, a business meeting, right? So I was like, okay, here's something, because he really struggles with flirting and bantering. So I said, okay, let's, because so much of that you can't really tell someone, oh, say this line, do this. I mean, you can sometimes do that, but obviously I'm not there. I don't know the interaction. I don't know the conversation, right? So it is hard to just say, hey, do this line, because otherwise it becomes a little robotic. It doesn't quite work. Now, there are certain things that I do teach the men that I coach that does work a lot to initiate certain things like kissing or touching and things like that. That, yes, I can teach that. I can coach that. But overall, this is something that you must practice and embody, right? So one of the things that I told him to do the next time he goes on dates, and this is something that all of you guys should be practicing, okay, is that even before you get to the date, it's really about this mindset, being in this sexual mindset. Now, I'm not saying sit there with a big fucking boner, but I'm saying you need to understand, like, even before you meet, you're there as a man, she's coming as a woman. This is romance. This is sex, right? This is the ultimate goal, is sex. Whether you're going to have sex or not, I'm not saying you need to have sex that same date. I'm just saying, in the grand scheme of life, the ultimate goal is to come together so you do eventually have sex. Am I right? So I said to him, to even establish the mood, to get yourself in that mindset, think about how do you embody sexuality just in the way that you show up to that date. Because I said to him, even just in how you're sitting can do so much for you to initiate that mood and the ambiance of that kind of an interaction. So I was just telling him, when I can, or as much as I can, I'll sit in such a way, like maybe it's something like this, where it's like you're opening up yourself in a masculine way, right? If I'm sitting here like this, now obviously you can't do that on every single fucking chair, like especially if you're at a bar with a stool, you can't be sitting there like this, okay? But sitting something like this, opening up your posture, is going to immediately, without even saying a word, it builds a sense of like this openness, this like opening up your body to a woman, or showing this casual dominance of the space that you're taking up, right? Because I was saying to him, I said, I bet you probably showed up and we're just like sitting like this, right? Just like very business and proper, and it was like rigid in a way. I'm not saying you can't sit like this, okay, don't get me wrong there. But I said to him, I bet you were very business in the way your body was, the energy of your body, the positioning, and all of those things, right? And he said, yeah, actually, I when I look back on that date, yeah, I was just like very cold or very rigid. It wasn't like this kind of a vibe that exudes sexuality Okay, and when I say exude sexuality, I don't mean you need to be over the top. But there's a difference between me just even sitting like this versus sitting like this at the bar, right? Which one looks like you're a man who owns that space, right? So let's just pretend you are at a stool and there's no back, you can't lean back, okay? How can you sit? Well, again, you can be sitting very prim and proper like this, or you could kind of be like this even. This is subtle, it's very subtle, but even just sitting like this, opened up, owning the space a bit, right? And if the girl's sitting right here, you could be like this. Even this kind of gesture like this, with your hand on your mouth, stuff like this, it shows there's a sense of sensuality to it that I think gets lost on a lot of men. A lot of guys are just very prim and proper. Maybe they're a little more even hunchy. Not a good way to go. Open up. You don't need to sit here looking at her like that, but open up. You're sitting here with your hand up, like this. You're just owning that space a little bit more. Your legs are apart. You're not just buttoned up like this and having your little date. Not a good way to go. Because when you sit into it like this, you open up, it's so easy for you to interact in a physical way. Like I've told you guys before, you can initiate a physical contact by just saying let's say you're talking about some hobby or something related to her hands. She likes to cook. She likes to do pottery, whatever it happens to be. You could say, well, that involves good hands. Let me see yours. Boom. It's just so easy and effortless to open up. Let me see your hand. These are nice hands. Look at those fingers. I like that. Look like they could do some damage on a nice soft ball of clay. Again, these are just lines that hearing it here and now sound maybe a little cheesy, but when you're in a date, when you're in that setting and the mood is there, it can work. Okay, but you can see how casually I could do that. Where if I'm sitting like this, can I please see your hand? Can I look at your? It's that doesn't feel sexual. It doesn't exude that sensuality. That's so key to then making it very natural later when you do initiate touch, a kiss, any of that escalation, that physical escalation. Okay, so keep that in mind, fellas. It starts here. Okay, I can't give you every little clever line to say for these situations. Now there are certain guidelines and stuff like that. Like I said, that I do teach men to think about. But this is something that I just was this is an easy fix for that situation. Enter into it already in that sexual mindset, that sensual mindset. And I think you will see that it helps you get there. It helps you ease into it. It makes it much more natural than if you start very rigid and tight and formal. Own that space like it was your spot and she's coming into it. Don't be afraid of doing that. What do you guys think? Have you been in a situation like this where you have not known how to escalate or just felt like there was never a good opportunity? Let me know in those comments below. I'd love to hear from you about where you're getting stuck with this, okay? Again, now this is one of my clients. He is following my masculine magnetism method. This is what I use to coach the guys that I work with. If you're interested in working with me, you want these nice, fine-tuned feedback on your dates or any of that stuff, this is what I do with my clients that I coach. There's a link down below. You can book a free consult call with me so I can learn more about you, where you're getting stuck, what's holding you back, and we'll talk about where you're at and see if my coaching would be a good fit for you where you are right now, and to see if it could help you get unstuck and get to where you want to go. All right, that is it for this video. I will see you in the next one.